A federal grand jury has indicted Hunter Biden on gun charges. It's the first time the U.S. government has filed felony criminal charges against a child of a sitting president. President Biden's son is accused of falsely claiming he was not using illegal drugs when he bought a gun back in 2018 in October. The indictment comes after a plea agreement fell apart in July. If convicted, he could face up to 25 years in prison. CBS News senior investigative correspondent Herridge joins us now. Catherine, this is not a very lengthy indictment. What are prosecutors saying that Hunter Biden did?
Well, it all goes to the possession of the weapon and allegations that he lied about the status of his drug use when he obtained the weapons. The first two counts are felony counts, and they relate to making a false statement about the drug use on a federal gun form. And the second is continuing those false statements when he purchased the weapon from a gun dealer. And then the last one is simply possessing the weapon while he was on narcotics.
And as we mentioned, this was part of a plea agreement that you watched fall apart in real time, but that also included other potential charges with tax charges.
That's
so
right.
Should we expect more down the pike?
I think the short answer is yes. The door is wide open to additional charges in this case on the alleged tax violations. Just to look back to late July, there was a broad agreement that would have been for misdemeanor tax charges and then for a felony gun offense. And that would have been wiped clean if Hunter Biden abided by the terms of the deal. That fell apart over the simple question that the two sides were not in agreement over whether that broad deal shielded him from potential criminal charges in the future. So they've been litigating different elements of the agreement since, especially the gun agreement. But the government's position is that it is not valid, and they have now charged him today.
So what happens next? Obviously, he'll be arraigned. Do we know when? Do we know when we might see more charges?
So in order to bring any tax charges in this case, Special Counsel Weiss will have to go to a grand jury in another jurisdiction where he has the venue to bring those charges. So in other words, where the alleged crime took place. That is not Delaware. Based on the court filings, that's either Washington, D.C. or out in California. To answer your question about the felony gun offense, it will proceed like the hundreds of other felony gun offenses do in the federal system. There would be an arraignment, then there would be different motions by the sides. We can expect Hunter Biden's legal team to argue the charges are not valid because of the prior agreement on the gun offense, but also that there are constitutional questions here. There's litigation in the courts over whether barring drug users from possessing a weapon does violate their constitutional rights.
And those are still playing out, is that correct?
That's correct.
But could they use that as their argument, even though there has not been a ruling on that?
Well, they could certainly use it. We spoke with a former senior Justice Department official who said it would be extremely ironic if the sort of poster case for this question of the constitutionality of barring a drug user from possessing a weapon became President Biden's son.
So it could be even more historic than it already is. Thank you so much,
You're
Catherine.
welcome.
For more on the political fallout from all of this, CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins us now. Nikole, it's great to be with you. I'm sure that there's a lot of reactions from Republicans about this. What are they saying?
Well, really, reaction, as you can imagine, Weija, is falling on party lines, you know, in terms of Republicans, and many of them seem to feel like this is potentially just a slap on the wrist. As Oversight Chair James Comer put it, he believes that these are easy charges, and he feels that they don't go far enough. Take a listen.
That's the one crime that he committed that you cannot tie Joe Biden into. So we'll see what happens with the other 11 or so crimes that the president's son's committed.
But I can assure you that I spent 10 years as a federal prosecutor, and I can assure you that Chairman Comer and Chairman Jordan do not know what goes into charging criminal charges and what is required. And so if they are going to say there should be more charges against Hunter Biden, they don't know what they're talking about.
Of course, that was Dan Goldman, a Democrat who was the impeachment counsel in 2019. And, his position on this, because I asked him whether or not he thinks that, for instance, these charges will fuel House Republicans, given the impeachment inquiry that was announced this week. And as you heard from him there, he said, these Republicans, they're not prosecutors. So really, if they think they're going to see more charges, they don't really know what they're doing here. We also heard from Jamie Raskin, who is a ranking member on the Oversight Committee, who, criticized Republicans, saying, they can't applaud for the system when it comes to Hunter Biden and then try to tear it down when it comes to former President Trump. So, again, we certainly expect this to continue to play out as Republicans in particular ramp up their investigations into Hunter Biden, the Biden family, and some of the president's associates. Although, as you know, the White House continues to insist there's no evidence of wrongdoing.
Yes, they are repeating that every chance they get. You brought up former President Trump, Nikole. There was some news today out of Fulton, Georgia, where he faces criminal charges. What can you tell us about when he might go to trial?
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem like it's going to be anytime soon. As you know, this is a very big case involving 19 defendants, including the former president. Two of those defendants, Sidney Powell, who was a legal counsel for the former president, and Kenneth Chesborough, who authored two memos with respect to a fake elector scheme. Those two individuals have requested a speedy trial. And so last week, a judge granted their request to hold that trial next month. But what the judge did rule today is that the other defendants, including the former president, will not be tried next month. He does not think that there is enough time to try to pull together a trial with so many individuals. So the district attorney asked for her reaction today at a press conference later this afternoon. She did say that she was okay with that, provided the other defendants in this case didn't also request a speedy trial. Certainly the district attorney is concerned that, if all of these defendants try to break off their cases, that it could really strain the judicial system in Fulton County. So the hope is maybe these two individuals will be tried together in October and then the others at a later date.
Nikole, it's so stunning that that is going to be part of the backdrop of the 2024 election. And so is this impeachment inquiry into President Biden, which I know you asked House leaders about today. What are they saying today?
Oh, well, obviously, House Democrats are pretty frustrated by all that is going on with respect to this impeachment inquiry. I did have a chance to talk to Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who held a news conference a bit earlier today, and he continues to dismiss this inquiry as a stunt.
There is no evidence, not a shred of evidence, that President Biden engaged in wrongdoing. There is not a shred of evidence that President Biden committed an impeachable offense. There is not a shred of evidence that President Biden broke the law. This illegitimate impeachment inquiry is a partisan political stunt, period, full stop.
Now, I did ask him what Democrats' strategy will be now that this impeachment inquiry has been launched, whether that's messaging, whether that's trying to block records requests or subpoenas. And what the leader told me is that, they plan to counter Republicans with the truth and the facts, that they believe that this impeachment inquiry was ordered by the former president himself. And, the leader went on to say that, Congress writ large, but particularly House Republicans really need to be focused on more pressing matters, including preventing the government from shutting down at the end of this month.
Which is another big question mark. Thank you so much, Nikole. Great to see you.
You too.